As usual for super specials, we get an unnecessary framing device, which explains why the girls wrote the book. This time, it's because Claudia failed English class. Her teacher says she can raise her grade by writing a long project over the summer. I'm pretty sure that grades don't work like that in real life. Grades are due at the end of the school year. Teachers don't go back 4 months later and change your grade just because you wrote a spooky ghost story.
Argofont Book Review, Argofont Book Review.
This book was written by Jeanne Betancourt. A new family called the Menders have inherited a mansion in Maine. They're planning on moving there and opening a health food store, which is not at all what I would do if I became fabulously wealthy overnight. Karen's family will be joining them for 2 weeks. The four main babysitters fight over who should get the job. Kristy tries to pull rank and give the job to herself because she's the club president. And what good is being president if you can't give yourself all the cushy vacation jobs? Fortunately, Karen's mom comes up with a solution before the others kill Kristy. They will take all four of the girls on the trip, but in exchange, they won't get paid for babysitting. I would say no deal, but the girls accept the offer. The Menders kids are 9-year-old Jason, who likes baseball, 7-year-old Martha, who is too shy to talk to people, 10-year-old Jill loves Dawn and wants to dress like her and do everything with her, and calm down, Jill, you met her for the first time earlier today. And 14-year-old Lionel, who talks in goofy voices all the time because he wants to be an actor. There's also a cat named Spooky and two local caretakers named the Coopers. Mrs. Cooper cannot talk. The gardener is a dark, handsome rebel named Giorgio Trono. Although for a rebel, he really likes following rules. At least 5 times, he warns our heroes to stay away from the 4th floor of the mansion, because it's dangerous. Since Stacy's not in this book, Claudia's the lucky one who gets to have Giorgio as her vacation boyfriend. On the first night, there is flickering candlelight in the hallway and a ghostly moan. Oh no! The mansion is haunted! The girls search the hallway for evidence, and they find orange candle wax. Claudia says it can't be a ghost, since they used a real candle, but Dawn asks, what if it's a ghost using a real candle? Sometimes there's a thin line between Dawn is a ghost expert and Dawn is a crazy person who shouts, "A ghost did it!" no matter what happens. The town is having a parade next week. Claudia decides she's going to make a float for the 4th time in the series. You East Coasters and your big float parades, my gosh. Back at home, Mallory and Jesse take turns being the Babysitters Club president. Enjoy it while you can, Mallory. This is the only time you'll be in the director's chair. The meeting is a total disaster. Shannon shows up 14 minutes late. Many clients are upset to learn they're not getting the regular babysitters. Mallory accidentally missed 3 jobs because she forgot to check messages on Claudia's answering machine. Shannon leaves with a rude remark about how they need to end meetings on time. What a jerk! Shannon, the meeting ran long because you didn't show up until halfway through. How dare you insult the others for a problem that's your fault? I don't know where this is coming from, because Shannon is normally way nicer. Andrew wants to see what frogs look like, so they go out in the dark to find some. The girls are terrified when they see a light on the 4th floor. The light turns off! That is clearly the stuff of nightmares. A few pages later, Mr. Cooper explains the 4th floor has been locked for years. No one could have turned on the light, except for a ghost. See, they really should have said the floor is locked before the girls saw the light there. Since readers don't know that information yet, it seems like the girls are deathly afraid of a light for no reason. They hear the ghostly moaning again. Kristy opens her bedroom door and finds Lionel standing there. He's the fake ghost. He didn't even bother putting on a costume or anything. Low effort Lionel. But he says he's never been on the top floor, and they hear footsteps from above, so there's another ghost. The next day, Claudia wakes up and remembers what happened.
It all came back in a rush. The footsteps above our heads, the blood-curdling scream in the night. Dawn was right. We did have some major detective work to do.
What blood-curdling scream? There was no scream in the last chapter. Continuity. This really annoyed me. 4 times in the book they reference the scream, which never happened. It's a really glaring editorial oversight. Giorgio has an orange candle in his tool shed. That's the same color as the candle wax that the ghost left behind. The girls wonder if Giorgio is the hallway ghost, which is dumb because they already caught Lionel red-handed. He confessed that he's the ghost. Why are they suspecting Giorgio? Claudia points out that they caught Lionel on the second night. It's possible someone else was guilty the first night. They wait 80 pages before asking Lionel about it. He says he was the ghost both nights. I honestly don't know why they dragged that out so long. Giorgio is suspicious because he keeps weapons in his tool shed and shows up unexpectedly, so Giorgio is clearly a scary suspect. But like I said, he's also a vacation boyfriend. He gives Claudia roses and asks her to visit him in college. Oh yeah, college. He's 19. He thinks Claudia is 16. She doesn't tell him that she's really 13, which makes the relationship weird and creepy. Over the next several chapters, Claudia reads a scary story about the death of the mansion's former owners. Karen tries and fails to find a friend for Martha. Kristy tries and fails to find friends for Jason. Everyone has a dress-up day where they wear fancy suits and dresses for no particular reason. The Babysitters Club continues to be a disaster, to the point where Janine has to take a night job in order to keep them in business. I have to imagine those parents were happy to get a high school sitter, instead of getting Mallory or Jesse, who are only 1 year older than many of their clients. Logan says he can't take a job because he's picking up an extra shift at work. Mallory throws a fit and waves a loaf of bread around while shrieking. A co-worker agrees to fill in for Logan before Mallory starts hitting people with bread. This scene was hilarious. Panicked Mallory is too much fun. Mr. Cooper scares everyone with the story of Claudia and Giorgio. Lydia and George. Lydia fell in love with George, so her parents kept her hostage in the 4th-floor bedroom. When George came back 5 years later, she was an old woman. On a rainy day, they decide to explore the 4th floor. Giorgio has the only key. It's never explained why the gardener has the 4th floor key. In the attic, they find antique clothes and pictures. Andrew finds a cool boat, while Claudia finds a photograph from 80 years ago. The man in the photograph looks very familiar. Who could it be? The girls decide to split up and catch the ghost. Kristy and Marianne watch the mansion from outside, while Claudia and Dawn guard the 4th floor. The light on the 4th floor bedroom does go on, but Claudia and Dawn are too scared to look in the room, so they don't see what happens. These girls are terrible detectives. Even worse, Chrissy and Marianne see the culprit dressed up like a ghost on the roof. There's only one entrance to the roof, so the culprit must have walked past Claudia and Dawn to get there, but the girls didn't notice them. They are useless idiots, I swear. Mallory and Jesse turned down 8 jobs in 1 meeting. I'm disappointed we didn't see that meeting. Instead, we see the next meeting, where absolutely no one calls. Mallory and Jesse worry that the Babysitters Club will be destroyed forever and it's all their fault. No, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the 13-year-olds for leaving you hanging while they go on an unscheduled vacation. Mallory and Jesse are asked to babysit 5 families for Celebrate America Day. That's a summer holiday where people celebrate America with parades and food. There already is a holiday for that. It's called the 4th of July. Marianne looks at blueprints at the Historical Society. She discovers there's a secret dumbwaiter hidden in the mansion. A woman with an accent looked at the blueprints earlier this month. Who could it be? This is supposed to be a big mystery, but it's honestly not. We only know one adult woman in town, so yeah. Claudia learns that the mansion's previous owner kept talking about treasure in the attic before he died. The end of the book will reveal this is a joke. Treasure is the name of the toy boat in the attic. Ha 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 ha. The babysitters help the Menders kids adjust to their new town. Baseball is the answer for the boys. Jason shows off his baseball skills to a local team, and Lionel takes over as the team's coach. The girls are unsure if they want to join a swim team. Dawn helps Jill start her own babysitting club. which I thought was weird because Jill has shown no interest in babysitting until just now. Dawn explains Jill can practice babysit on Martha if they both join the swim team. So Jill is convinced, and we're assured the children will be 100% okay now that they do local sports. The girls examine the secret dumbwaiter. Dawn goes inside and finds a tape player. That must be the source of the screams at night! The Coopers show up unexpectedly, and we get a surprisingly scary scene as Dawn is trapped in the dumbwaiter for several minutes. With shock, she learns that Mrs. Cooper is faking being a mute. She can talk just fine. Wow! At this point, the mystery wraps up. We learn the Coopers lied about being locals, and they lied when they said they don't have a key to the 4th floor. Mrs. Cooper has a Scottish accent, just like the woman who looked at the mansion's blueprints. As for their motive, Mr. Menders tells everyone if he doesn't move into the mansion, the entire property goes to his Scottish cousin. Lionel points out that this is an important detail that should have been mentioned at the start of the book, and Mr. Menders explains he was deliberately saving it for the culprit reveal. I mean, he was deliberately saving it because he didn't want to pressure anyone. I find it strange that Mrs. Cooper is the one who's hiding her accent when Mr. Cooper is the cousin. Did she honestly expect Mr. Menders would hear her accent and say, "Wait, you're Scottish! That means you must be married to my cousin who I've never seen before, and you're plotting to steal the house from me! There's clearly no other explanation for why a woman in Maine would have a Scottish accent!" Mallory and Jessie are worried when they don't get any new babysitting jobs. It turns out that most of their clients have left town for summer vacation. This includes the Braddocks, who will be in town 3 days later at the Celebrate America parade. Continuity! The girls play with Claudia's candy, and Mallory realizes some candies are circular, just like wheels. Mallory decides they can have the kids decorate their bikes and strollers and other things with wheels. This proves to be a great way to distract the kids, and Celebrate America Day is a success. The babysitters confirm that Mrs. Cooper was the one who looked at the blueprints, and even worse, she knows they were looking at the blueprints. When they get back to the mansion, Claudia tells them Giorgio knows everything, and he's totally innocent. Oh, okay. I wish we got to see the scene where Claudia clears Giorgio of all suspicion. He was the main suspect for the majority of the book, after all. But instead we have Claudia say, "It's okay, he's cool now," and everyone's fine with it. Giorgio and Claudia say they entered the 4th floor bedroom. They discovered the light is connected to a timer, which regularly turns on and off at night. This is another scene that we should have seen firsthand. It's not confirmed if the Coopers set up the automatic light in order to scare our heroes, or if it was there before they moved in. It would be funny if our heroes were scared over something that wasn't supposed to be part of the haunting. They search the Coopers' room and find the Coopers' plan to scare the Menders off the property once the babysitters leave. They'll break the plumbing, start a fire, and steal Jason's baseball equipment. Those all sound like interesting sabotage incidents, which should have been in the book. I think an electrical fire is way scarier than hearing footsteps upstairs. They also plan to get Giorgio fired for fooling around with a sitter. I don't know why they're doing this after the sitters are gone. That feels like bad timing. Remember the picture of the familiar-looking man? Claudia draws a small mustache and beard on the photo. It looks just like Mr. Cooper! Oh no! I feel like this big revelation was ruined because Mr. Cooper's mustache was never mentioned before. It should be a big deal that the culprit disguises himself with a mustache, but we didn't know he had a mustache. This is the only time it comes up. Anyway, Claudia now has proof that Mr. Cooper is related to the Menders. He looks just like one of their grandfathers. It's a little surprising nobody noticed the family resemblance until just now, but I guess his mustache is so amazing it distracted everyone. Mr. Cooper comes in at this point and he sees Claudia with the picture, so he knows the babysitters are on to him. For the rest of the night, the babysitters are worried the Coopers will murder everyone, but all they do is tell a scary story and go back to Scotland the next day. Don't get me wrong, it was really suspenseful that our heroes were trapped in the house with the culprits during a thunderstorm without any power, but the suspense was all building up to nothing. It is highly unsatisfying to have the culprits flee the country when nobody is looking. The book should have ended with a culprit capture instead. The girls tell the parents, and Claudia dresses up for her float, which would have been more interesting if it wasn't the third fair of the book. Marianne thinks she sees Mrs. Cooper at the fair, so the mystery might not be over. But this is the last chapter, so no, it most definitely is over. In the epilogue, the Mender's kids do fine in their new home. Claudia breaks up with Giorgio through a letter, and she gets an A on her writing project called The Mystery of the Haunted House. Now, why wasn't that the title of this book? The end. Post-book follow-up. This book is a fun read, and it's spooky. That's good. But mystery-wise, there are big problems. The mustache and scream are big clues that don't actually appear in this book. We should have gotten the scene of Claudia clearing Giorgio and learning how the fourth floor lights work. There needs to be a culprit capture, and not mentioning that someone else inherits the house until the end is a blatant narrative cheat to prevent readers from figuring out who the culprit is too early. The good news is that these are not huge problems. A minor rewrite at the start would eliminate half of those mystery problems. So I would argue the book has all the elements of being a solid mystery, there's just a slight problem in how those elements are distributed. Like other BSC mystery books, I think it fell into the trap of focusing more on the scary story than the mystery. Just because a book is scary, that doesn't automatically make it a good mystery. The subplot with Jesse Mallory was great, and it serves as good contrast to the scary sections. I thought the subplot of Claudia falling in love with Giorgio did not work, because there is too much of a disconnect between Claudia loves the hot guy and Claudia is terrified he's the culprit. It doesn't work for her to feel both things at once. They're just too different. The subplot of helping the Mender's kids could have been improved. As Kristy points out, the BSC gets so distracted by the mystery, they forgot about the kids for half the book. The resolution to the kid problems is a touch forced, with Jill's never-before-mentioned love of babysitting and Lionel's never-before-mentioned love of baseball. Boy, it sure is lucky the older kids have previously unknown hobbies which perfectly solve their siblings' problems. Overall, it is a good book. I hate to say it, but the fact that Stacy is not in the club at this point makes for a much better super special. Since she's gone, that frees up more space to develop all the other stories. The book does a great job of having different narrators share stories, and unless I'm counting wrong, this is the longest super special to date. At 263 pages, it's about 20 to 30 pages longer than the average. I give Babysitter's Club Super Mystery number 1, Babysitter's Haunted House, an 8 out of 10. I feel bad docking points because the mystery was bad, but this is part of the mystery series. If this had been a normal super special, I wouldn't have taken away 2 points for the bad mystery. At least I don't think I would have. Sometimes my review scores are inconsistent. Sorry.